Joining us now, a key member of both of the Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committee, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Senator, thanks very much for joining us. The White House is furious that your Republican colleagues, 47 of them, have signed this letter, an open letter to Iran saying, don't get too excited about any deal the Obama administration may negotiate with you. It's up to Congress to approve it, and Congress doesn't want to do that. Your reaction?
Well, Wolf, it's highly disrespectful. There were elements of the way that the speech was handled last week by Congress that were also disrespectful. So the issue is, how do we keep our eye on the policy rather than all the politics? And I think the way we do that is let the president and the negotiating team finish the negotiation. Let them do their best job. To weigh in and say it's a bad deal before there's a deal, to try to write a letter to the Iranian leaders and undercut the president and the P5+1 negotiating ability is foolish. Congress will have an opportunity to look at this deal. I'm a co-sponsor of a bill that is equally sponsored by Democrats and Republicans to set up what is the appropriate procedure for review of a deal if one is reached. But we ought to wait and see if there's a deal, and then we can review it rather than going off with political stunts.
If there is a deal, do you think Congress should have that role specifically to authorize, to approve of a deal?
In this sense, yes, not only should there really needs to be congressional review. To the extent that the deal is about unwinding and repealing congressional sanctions, sanctions that were imposed by statute, then yes, Congress has to be involved. If the president wants to give sanctions relief under executive sanctions that were not part of statute, under international sanctions that were not part of statute, the president has the ability to do that without Congress. But what Iran wants is the unwinding of the congressional sanctions regime, and that will require a congressional review. And there's ample time to do it after a deal framework is announced, but we shouldn't be getting in and trying to pour cold water on the negotiation or to say it's a bad deal before there's any deal that has been announced at all.
Basically, these members, these 47 Republicans, led by Senator Cotton of Arkansas, they're basically saying the same thing that the visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said last week when he addressed Congress. And I know you decided not to attend that speech by the Prime Minister. You were upset about various aspects of that speech. But they're basically saying the same thing. After there's a deal that's signed with the other members of the Security Council and Germany, it's too late then. They have to speak up now. Your reaction to that?
Wolf, that's completely false. The entire contemplation of this is that the Security Council, if they reach a deal, would announce a framework, and then it would take them 3 months to actually convert that framework into a deal with many technical details that could be signed. Congress is going to have ample time to review this. I support the notion of congressional review because I don't think the president can unilaterally bargain away congressional sanctions without Congress being involved. But again, what you heard the Prime Minister say last week is it's a bad deal. No, there's no deal yet. Why pour cold water on it before it's done? You lead the folks to believe that you would be against not this deal, but would be against any deal. We need to undertake diplomatic steps to see if we can end the Iranian nuclear program. If we can't, the world needs to know it's not because of a negotiating tactic. It's because Iran would not give up their nuclear weapons ambitions.
Any second thoughts about your decision last week to boycott that speech by the Prime Minister?
The speech was very unfortunate, Wolf. I went to visit Prime Minister Netanyahu in his office 6 weeks ago to talk to him and other Israeli leaders and others in the region about Iran. I'm deeply interested in what they have to say, but this was a speech that was fundamentally timed to try to influence the Israeli elections. Congress should never be used to try to put their thumb on the scale in a foreign election, and that was the reason I didn't attend.
All right, Tim Kaine, the Democratic Senator from Virginia. I know you got to run. Thanks so much, and thanks for being patient with us while we had that breaking news out of Madison, Wisconsin. Appreciate it very much.
You bet.
Coming